to show you how to initialize your rifle when you get it. This is our HTI sniper system, available in 50 cal, 375, and 408, and 416 Barrett in the future. Right now it's new in the box. You know, if you want information about the deployment package, there's actually information on the box, but we'll go ahead and pull it out of the box. Kind of the unveiling of what a customer would go through when they get it. So the chassis and the conversion kit's in this box. It's possible that you could get your conversion kit in a separate box depending on your order. So it's got pretty good packing material to protect it from any damage during shipment. But as you go through and you get your gun, I like to kind of start at the front of the weapon to make sure everything, you know, looks good and is there. And we got our 50 cal muzzle brake, and it's, you know, you can check it, make sure it's tight, make sure you got your thread protector on there for the brake. You work your way back and you go through the sling studs here, and you actually want to take a sling and test each one of these sling stud holes to make sure that the coating didn't get built up too much. Sometimes you get a little bit of coating in there and you have to actually aggressively work that sling stud in. But yeah, so you just take it and you work it in. You see that went in nice and easy. But occasionally you'll get a gun that's a little bit snug and you actually have to aggressively work that in. And it has a rotation limiter in there. Make sure that's functioning properly. Go through the bottom, the sides. Make sure your handguard is tight on the gun. You can see there's no play in the handguard between the receiver and the handguard. And you'll want to actually ensure that your barrel screws are tight. I have a torque wrench back here. If you don't have our torque wrench, then you can use your own, but it needs to be 80 inch-pounds on these 4 screws here. And you just go through and you tighten those down. Make sure you get the click on all 4 of those screws. Then this screw is a barrel lock, so you'll just make sure that the indicator is over here to the lock position. Now you're at the trigger. You want to make sure that your gun actually functions and goes, you know, click or bang when you pull the trigger. So we'll go ahead and insert the bolt. And to get the bolt inside the HTI, you have a latch on the back of the buttstock. You just pull that in and then you rotate the buttstock to the side. And here's our bolt, and make sure it's a 50 cal bolt, which it is, and a 50 caliber barrel. No mismatch there. And you insert the bolt, rotate it into position, and then we can actually re-engage this latch. A little bit of white packing material. So the first thing you want to do is you want to check the safety. Right now it's in the safe position. We're going ahead and pull that trigger pretty firmly to make sure that there's no accidental discharge. Now we're going to disengage the safety and go ahead and pull the trigger. And you can see you get a nice firing. And we can do that a couple times just to ensure that there's no issues with the safety or the firing mechanism at all. And the trigger is actually set very nice now, but in a future video we'll go through and teach you how to fine-tune the trigger for the individual shooter. So the next thing is your magazine. On the HTI 50 cals and the 375s, we have a different magazine mechanism. It's got a 2-point attachment, which means that there's the latch actually will grab this latch and this latch, and really what it allows you to do is have a drop-free magazine that limits the movement, because you got to have some clearance to allow it to drop free, but you don't want the mag to wobble back and forth because it's noisy and it has feeding reliability issues if you have that. So the mechanism, we actually have an indicator window here. So when you put the mag in, you want to insert it straight so it's parallel to the gun, and then you just push it in and make sure that it latches good. This indicator will actually come all the way forward like that when it's set properly. A lot of guys, when they first start using it, they're used to rotating a magazine in, so they might do something like this and think they have it seated, but you can see the bottom's not parallel and this indicator is not all the way forward. And so you just push the back and boom, you're back in there, and you can give it a good tug to make sure. But yeah, you can see, you know, even with the bolt open, the amount of play in the mag is pretty negligible if you know, pretty much almost nothing at all. So it's really a slick mag mechanism. You know, make sure your follower is not seized up in any way. Make sure that it, you know, springs back and forth when you press it. On the range, when you do your feeding testing, you'll be able to, you know, ultimately ensure that that's done. We have a inspection sticker. You can see this was inspected by Eric Matthews, who's one of our assembly crewmen, and he inspected it on September 5th. So this is pretty recent. The next thing you do is you check your monopod. Make sure your monopod, you know, actuates. This is your fine-tune adjustment wheel here. You just turn that out. Then you got a ground spike. If you depress the wheel, it will spring out like that. So looks like that's functioning properly. When you take this to the range, you know, we got a pretty durable coating on there, and so as you operate your bolt, if there's any grittiness or any stickiness at all, it's the coating that needs to be broken in. And so you want to actually break that in, and the fastest way to do it is to take your gun and kind of put a little upward pressure on the bolt and aggressively run it back and forth like so. And I'm actually putting pretty decent pressure upward on this thing to get the coating and the lugs to smooth out a little bit. But then after you go ahead and run that back and forth aggressively, you know, 10 to 20 times, then your bolt is much smoother and much easier to operate. Kind of premature break into the bolt. So the last thing we really haven't talked about is the cheek piece here. The HTIs come with cheek pieces, and the adjustment screw is right here, and it's the same screw as on your locks over here, so you can use your C-conk. But you can loosen that up, and then you can adjust this up or down and retighten it. Well, that's initializing your HTI.